What's up, Billy? How you feeling?
Hey man, hey,
There he is,
Hate to drag you in and just be like, tell your story real quick if you don't mind.
14 Billy.
It's like I was just saying that I remember just from social media
hmm
seeing what happened and actually seeing the recovery and seeing you still out there like you do more stuff than I do. And I got both of these. I got both of these limbs right here. And can you just quick story? Just quick story. It's a
All
hard
right.
story to tell quickly, but you know.
It is a very difficult story to tell quickly, but I will do my best. Um, so, uh, the longest short version of this is uh, prior to, my adult life and I was always a pretty athletic person. Always, I was a Division I athlete. I was a high school state track champion. I've always been pretty active. Moved to New York at a bunch of, back in 1998. No big deal.
She was in a boy band.
Was in a boy band.
Or
And eventually fell into the fitness field where I just stayed active. I stayed busy. That was my way of, kind of releasing that energy that I had, from my competition days.
right.
And the story you probably want to tell is around May 2012. So on May 19th, 2012, I was in a motorcycle accident. Um, it was a crazy thing. I'm guessing you're wanting the Cheeseburger Day version. So I'll try to do
Do
that.
you know
real
about
quick.
Cheeseburger Day?
Cheeseburger. Oh yeah, that actually just passed, right?
Yes, it did. Yes, yeah.
Yay!
So this is what happened. So on May 19th, I was on a motorcycle headed to a bachelor party up in the Catskills, and it was a real simple thing. There was a miscommunication, and I thought I was going to a campsite, and I was actually going to somebody's property. The reason that's significant is because at some point I had to get off of a main road to go to the campsite, and I was looking for a road, and it wasn't a road. It was just turn left at a tree or something crazy. And I took a street bike about 2 miles up to a mountain to go camping with some friends. And it was fun. And that weekend, the reason I was on a motorcycle is because that weekend I planned to go to a bike show with 30 of my motorcycle brothers that I rode with at the time, the Extreme Riders. Shout out. And they were going to be at Orange County Choppers up in Newburgh, and the Catskill spot that I was going to was really close. And so there was a simple game plan: go up, camp out, come back down, meet in Orange County Choppers, ride home with 30 of your closest friends. Well, the fact that I took a street bike off road caused a problem because on my way off the mountain the next morning, I ran over something that punctured my tire, and I rode for 2 hours on a leaking front tire and had no idea.
Wow.
So by the time I got to Orange County Choppers, my front tire was completely devoid of air, and I didn't know it. So that caused a series of events that actually had me crash the bike. And the short version of that is I low-sided, and I had a really devastating break to my leg. In fact, I fractured my compound. I had a compound fracture in my tibia. I dislocated my knee. I broke my femur in 2 places, and I snapped my femoral artery, and I bled out almost immediately. When they found me, I only had about 15% of my body's blood volume left. But
I'm sorry. Did you? So you were somewhere and nobody knew where you were?
Well, I was on a highway exit. I was actually on the exit to Orange County Choppers.
Okay.
The bike went down, and so I slid into a guardrail doing 50 miles an hour, feet first, on my stomach.
Jeez.
So luckily there was, just to back up a little bit, right before I got to that exit, I passed a F-250 being driven by an Army medic, a retiring Army medic named Sergeant Matt Pinkston. Matt was with his family, and his job in Afghanistan and Iraq was bag tag and disposal of body parts. He'd also received multiple citations for being a first responder, including an episode in Germany where he saved a baby.
Wow.
So he actually rode right by him right before the exit, and he saw the motorcycle because my bike was pretty tricked out. And he remembers specifically going, "Wow, that's a really nice bike." And his wife said, "What bike?" And he said, "Never mind, which exit are we getting off of?" And they ended up getting off on the same exit that I did. So as they came around the exit, my bike was sliding across, and I was laid out in the middle of it with my left foot underneath my shoulder next to my helmet.
His kid said Billy looked like a Barbie doll. He said he looked like a rag doll.
So
Wow.
so Matt gets out of the truck and runs over, and I remember laying out on the exit of the highway thinking to myself, "Don't look to your left, because that's where the cars are coming." And it's 11:30. I actually think it was like 1:30 in the afternoon. And I just remember thinking, don't look left, so the last thing you see isn't a truck tire. And as I laid my eyes and waited to die, I heard a voice say, "Hey man, you've been in a motorcycle accident. You broke your ankle, but you're going to be okay." And I look up and there's this older white guy over me. And I remember thinking, he's lying, but let's go with that. So Matt administered first aid. He had a first aid kit in his truck with 2 tourniquets. He gave me a tourniquet and helped me stay awake.
If he wasn't there, he would have.
If he'd have been 2 minutes later, he wouldn't have gotten there. If he'd have been 2 minutes earlier, he would have been in front of me, and I would have never met him. Right. And it could be argued that he's probably the only person in 5 miles that knew what to do in a situation like that, because I literally, when the ambulance got to me, I was almost dead. And if he hadn't been right there.
You mean he flatlined?
Yeah.
He flatlined twice. When I got the phone call, he had flatlined twice. And then he flatlined again in the operating room. He was in the operating room for 11 hours. When I got to the hospital, they said that he's lost 85% of his blood and 50% of his blood left. And they told me they didn't think he was going to make it. Yep.
So it got kind of crazy because as I was out, I slipped into what could best be described as a coma, except I kept waking up about every 12 to 14 hours. And I would say something like, "Where are my boots?" And someone would say, we took your boots. "Do you know where you are, Mr. Davis?" "I'm in Orange County Choppers." I'm like, "No, you're at Westchester Medical."
He didn't say it like that though.
Right,
it was very much like, because he had all these tubes and it was awful.
And I kept asking, "Did I lose my leg in a motorcycle accident?" And they would say yes. And then I would dream about running or cycling or riding a motorcycle like with one leg or swimming with one leg. And so I kept taking it back into this dream state. It was kind of crazy.
So May 19th, celebrate his alive day, but the day.
So let me tell you.
Okay, you're gonna tell a story.
So the last
story.
So the last part that everybody likes to hear, that it ends well, is I would have these crazy dreams about cycling and running and bicycling and swimming with one leg, even though I didn't know how to swim. And this one dream in particular I was riding up 6th Avenue, around 14th Street, headed uptown, and there are no cars in the street, no people on the sidewalks. Every time I hit a light, it would turn green, and all I could hear is the hum of the bicycle tire on this asphalt. And I remember thinking, this is awesome. I could stay here forever. And I had this crazy feeling that said, I could feel it, even though it was a voice, I could feel it. And it said, if you say yes, you can't say no. And I took that to mean if I said yes, I was going to be there. And I said, yeah, but this is awesome. I could stay here. And I felt it again. I was like, if you say yes, you can't say no, and you're going to be here for a while. So as I'm riding up 6th Avenue, I remember thinking, okay, so I'm going to get bored because there's nobody to talk to. So no, I don't want to be here. And immediately I had the sensation of hunger. Now, as I'm riding up 6th Avenue, I was thinking, well, I'm hungry. Where can I get something to eat? I really want a cheeseburger and a Coke. And all I could think of is this deli that used to be on 57th and 2nd. So I ride up 6th Avenue, hard right on 56th Street, head over to 2nd Avenue and walk in with my bicycle. And as I walk in, I see the guy behind the counter. And I've seen him a million times. I've ordered from that restaurant. It's gone now, but I'd ordered a bunch of times from there. And I asked the guy, hey, can I get a cheeseburger and a Coke? And the gentleman turns around, and when he does, his face is completely gone. He has no eyes, no nose, no mouth. And the only thing I hear is this trumpet-like noise that says, wah, 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 and he goes back to work. And I think, well, that's odd. And then I hear a bell, and a woman walks in, and she's dressed all in black. Her face is completely gone, like somebody erased it or pixelated it. And she walks right up to the counter, and all I hear is, wah, 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 wah. And the guy turns around and answers, wah, 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 wah. So I look at her, and I say, excuse me, miss, I was here first. Make it a cheeseburger and a Coke, please. And they ignore me and go back to work. Now, I think at this point, I'm pretty convinced now that I had chosen to come back, and these people were not on the same living plane. But I didn't know that at the time. And I'm getting upset. And I'm pretty sure it's because I'm black. So I'm getting all upset and in my feelings. I'm getting ready to write an email, and I'm going to tell the manager, wait till they find out how you treated me, because I'm hungry. And so finally, after being ignored for a few minutes, I slam my fist down on the counter, and I yell out, can a brother get a cheeseburger and a Coke? And immediately I'm in a different room. But in this room, it's pitch black. There are lights flashing, and these white things are flying at me. So assuming I'm being attacked, I get up to defend myself. And as I go to throw a punch and scream, ah, I realize that one of my arms is in a restraint. And so is the other one. And there's something around my neck and something in my mouth. And as I'm screaming, I realize it's not a dark room, it's the middle of the night. The lights are actually medical equipment, and the white things are nurses running to my bedside. And one of the nurses says, "Oh my God, Mr. Davis, thank God you're awake. We apologize. You've been in a horrible motorcycle accident and you lost your leg. We apologize about the restraints, but yesterday you tried to walk out of here." And as she said it, I vividly remembered going, "Man, screw this, I'm out of here." And as I swung to the left, the thing that stopped me from crawling out of the bed was I saw my leg with a bloody bandage at the end of it. And I remember thinking, what the hell? And then like somebody, yeah, and I kind of relaxed. And so as I'm thinking about this, she says, "We'll take the restraints off, but you have to promise not to try to leave. Do you understand me?" Now, mind you, I've still got a tube in my mouth, got a thing on my neck, I've got restraints on my hands. And 2 minutes ago, I was trying to order a cheeseburger on Second Avenue.
It's him.
Yeah, that's me. Kind of hard to make out, but I'm pretty banged up there.
Yeah.
And so I just look at her and I'm like, so they take the restraints off, they take the tube out of my mouth, and I look at the nurse for this uncomfortable amount of time. And finally, when I opened my mouth, the first thing that I said was, "Can a brother get a cheeseburger and a Coke? I'm really hungry."
And we're all in the room. I wouldn't leave the hospital until he woke up. Like, I didn't leave. They found me a shower, everything. And the first thing he says, not, "Where's my baby?" Could a brother get a cheeseburger and a Coke? And we all burst into laughter. We're crying. It's Billy's best friend. We are like dying laughing. So
yeah, so, you know, I think it evolves more because as I laid in the ICU for a couple of days and kind of came to grips with my new reality, you know, both my parents are visually impaired. So I watched them grow up and make their way and get college degrees in a world that they almost couldn't see, literally, because they're visually impaired. And I've always grown up around people with disabilities. My mother worked for Services for the Blind. We knew a lot of deaf kids, you know, a lot of paraplegics and quadriplegics. And so it's, you know, being disabled isn't new in terms of the feeling. I just wasn't disabled. But as I lie in the bed in my ICU, I remember thinking, I need to find something more significant than this to focus, harder than this to focus on, or I'm not going to make it. So what's the scariest thing I could think of? And all I kept coming back to was Iron Man, Iron Man, Iron Man.
he learned how to swim. So he didn't know how to swim.
I decided I was going to start doing triathlons.
I don't know if you guys can see this.
So I started, a couple years later, I learned how to swim. And then 2015, I started doing triathlons.
Started running.
On my way to doing that, I, you know, the next year for my Alive Day, I didn't want to celebrate the day that I didn't want to celebrate the day that I crashed because, you know, that's kind of depressing. Right. So I decided to celebrate the day that I woke up with a cheeseburger. And I put it on social media. You know, it's 2013. Hey, everybody, remember that day I didn't die? I got my cheeseburger. And a weird thing happened. Everybody that I knew responded with pictures of cheeseburgers. And so it became known as kind of this like cheeseburger day. Hey, Billy, thanks for not dying. So by the time I got to triathlons, you know, a few more circumstances fell into place and I was given the opportunity to raise money for people with disabilities. So I asked everyone to donate the cost of a cheeseburger to a charity. And we raised about $20,000. And we gave it to somebody and we got some matches. And next thing you know, we were able to give somebody a leg, you know, toe to hip. Wow. And every year we repeat that on or around May 24th. Yeah. And I try to raise money for amputees.
Pretty great. He's pretty dope.
You know, it's a way to turn your limits lemonade. You know, it's a big ask. And, you know, it's funny. I get more people sending me pictures of cheeseburgers than donating money.
Well, I'm sure you did just because of COVID-19.
But you know, it puts it out there and it gets some awareness. And if we can raise some money every year for some people that need it, you know, this last year we raised money for kids in Sierra Leone who lost their limbs from landmines. So I'm connected with them. We're buying them crutches and things like that. And I just, you know, it's a way to give back.
That is beyond awesome. Like that's an indescribable story.
It's like he's pretty, I mean, to know him before the accident and then to, you know, I was there every step of the way, and to see him, I think one of the most impressive things, Billy didn't know how to swim, and so Billy learned how to swim, and to watch him
at 38
and to watch him when he started,
inspiration to me.
When he started to learn how to swim, to watch him like really like, what are you doing? To like now, years later, we're in our 40s, and we're both very competitive. you know, I get in the water with him and he's like, that's all you got? I'm like, what? You know, and he's swimming in the Hudson and doing triathlons, and I'm usually his handler. And to watch him really go, this was huge. You know, I mean, we're not going to sit here and act like, I think Billy was in, I don't want to say denial. He had put himself in a very big space, and like the year anniversary came of his accident, and Billy still was like this. And, you know, his doctor had told me that Billy was going to have to kind of hit rock bottom here before he really started to heal all the way. And I was always waiting like, well, he's fine, you know? And then one day I started noticing I would come home and Billy was still in the same place on the couch. And he went through, you know, you just do, you have to. He went through a bout of depression. And
I mean, it's the 5 stages of denial.
Yeah, you know, he went through his bout of depression. He broke up with me. Can you believe that? He broke up with me because he felt like he didn't want to hold me back, you know?
I can respect that.
He wanted me, you know, I was doing the singing thing, got my Broadway show. He felt like he was holding me back. But it didn't last long. He couldn't live without me, and I couldn't live without him. And yeah, so and then just to really watch him evolve and start turning this Cheeseburger Day into an event that you raise money to support other amputees get back to their new normal, their lives. And he's pretty I tell him this too. He's pretty terrific. He's pretty, what you see is what you get. What you see. He's I told you, he's very transparent. Mm-hmm. And but I'm very, you know how I feel. I'm very proud of you. Extremely proud of you.
It's been a challenge. I mean, every day is, but you know, and the triathlon thing, like I said, I'm glad that I took to it a little, because it was still these scary, you know, when I get into the water, when I get into a competition, it's, you know, someone told me very early in my triathlon career, before I even did a full one by myself, he said, you know, during any triathlon, it's going to be a long day. You're going to want to quit. And it's going to be a lot. Right. And if it's a super sprint or an Olympic or a half Ironman, every single one of them, I want to quit. It's a long day. I want to be there. What am I doing? And then you get into the water and you figure it out, you know, and then you get on the bike and you push, and then you run and you're done, and you want to be done. And somehow you're out there and you just put one foot in front of the other till it's over. And there's something about putting yourself in that position that really helps make the days when being an amputee is hard not be so hard. Right. And you know, and then I mean, it's just there's a lot there. And you know, on days when I ride, you know, now that everything's closed, it's really hard to get much in. But I do a lot of cycling now, and I get people all the time, oh, you're inspirational, yay! And that's great. I appreciate it. It never comes at a bad time. But for me, I kind of pack those away. And then when you're on one of those 40-mile, 50-mile bike rides and there's nobody out there, you start remembering, this is why everybody thinks you're awesome, because you don't have to be out here right now. When you're in the water, and you know, and it's scary because, you know, I'm gonna call my black guy from Kansas card, no water and black people don't swim. So yeah. We just didn't do it. Just something we just didn't do. There's no water in Kansas, and I didn't learn how to swim, so I never did it. So to be a grown man learning how to swim with one leg, people are like, isn't that hard? I'm like, I wouldn't know, because I know how to do it with two. But there's something about putting yourself, you know, even when I get in the pool where I know I can touch the bottom, I know I can swim for an hour and a half, there's still like an initial, like when you get in the water, like, oh my God, what am I doing? And then you have to control that. You have to control your breathing. And then and I find that, you know, with swimming in particular, there are a lot of parallels to life. It's not going to be a complete glide. You know, sometimes the water is rough and you get kicked in the face. And what do? You control your breathing and you keep swimming. You know, what happens when the water works with you and you're gliding? Well, damn it, you take as many laps as you can go while the water's in your favor. You know, what happens when you choke on water? You don't panic. You have to exhale, you have to choke for a little bit, but you keep breathing and you keep swimming. And it's those types of things that really translate into business world and relationships and life. Then life. Yeah. So, you know, I try to use those. I believe that the way you do anything is the way you do anything. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. And you could take coaching from a trash can if you wanted to listen to a trash can. So when I get in the water and I get in the pool, I try to remember like, okay, what is the world trying to teach me during this swim? And how can I translate that into the rest of my life? And it's been very beneficial. And when I have an opportunity to pay that forward, I do.
Yeah.
Feel like a better person just listening to you talk. So, you know.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Like I don't know. He's pretty great. He really is. I've been very impressed and grateful. And it was now we're at a space where it's like everything kind of is what it is. But it was a process.
It still is. I mean,
there
are certain things you just have to get used to being an amputee. You know, I was thinking the other day, I have to factor in like a 5 to 15% crash factor into anything that I purchase. As much as I would love to be one of the cool kids running around with an iPhone with no cover, like, look at my cool iPhone. I realize as an amputee, I trip and drop things. So right. I need to have a case and just because that's an amputee 5 to 15% factor. I don't wear white Jordans because, well, I got one prosthetic foot and I never know what that thing is going to step in. So no sense in having all white sneaks because I'm going to get destroyed on one sneaker no matter what and never see it coming.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure it took some time to get to a point of talking, and I mean, you tell the story like flawlessly and fluently, so I'm sure it took some time to get to that point and be comfortable with it. But I mean, it's crazy.
Well,
it's crazy.
I appreciate you saying that, but Nikki will attest, I've said this from the beginning. I don't know that you could pick a better person to go through something like this. Yeah. One of the things that was really clear, and it was almost annoying at first, is everybody, I'm from Kansas. So, when this happened, I was out here. So I got a lot of stuff from Kansas and people back west. And one of the things that people kept saying was, oh, it's Billy. He's going to be okay. You ever met Billy Davis? If you met Billy, he's going to be fine. And there's a part of you that wants people to be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? You're like, why does everybody think I'm going to be okay? I just lost a leg. But to be honest, again, I grew up with 2 visually disabled parents. I was an exceptional athlete as a youth. I'm actually allergic to alcohol, which benefits me because most amputees fall into opioid abuse and alcoholism. So I missed that trap completely. I've never been a pill guy. I just don't like them. So opioids don't appeal to me. Alcohol doesn't do anything because I can't drink anyway. I was athletic to begin with, so you couldn't find a better candidate to go through an obstacle like this. And it also helps that I've got the gift of gab, so I get to use my superpowers to help other people. So, I'm just playing the hand I was dealt. And I never did a why me thing because that would imply that I did something to deserve this. Fact of the matter is, shit happens. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay. The fact is, stuff happens. In all the amputees that I've met in my time, the ones that struggle the most are the ones that have some unfulfilled expectation of what they think is supposed to happen, or they don't deserve this in some way, or they weren't prepared. And none of those were the case for me. I don't think that I'm exempt from this. I've seen it before. I know you can overcome it. It's just, it's hard. Is it going to be hard? Yeah. But is it impossible? Not typically. So I just, bite down on my mouthpiece, put my face in the water and keep swimming.
Respect to you. Because like I said, just watching, just seeing glimpses of it. I mean, I'm like, I need to go outside and run right now just because you're doing it. I'm looking at myself like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life?
But most people never have to find out if their body can take care of them. Most people we don't live in a society anymore. Like, you don't have to hunt for your own food. So right. Your dinner isn't predicated on how well you can trap or fish. Sure. You can 4 swipes on a phone and you can have something from Seamless. And so we often don't have to figure out if our body is equipped to take care of us. I am one of the rare few that had to find out one way, like, is my body okay taking care of me? I know amputees for whom they had their accident and they ballooned up 200 pounds.
Yeah.
They became agoraphobic. That was never going to happen for me. So I try to really promote like fitness as a lifestyle, not just an aesthetic. And I try to make sure that, I use my story to help benefit others because, and I'd like to think, even though practically we know not everybody steps up, I'd like to think that most people would. You just never know when you're going you never know when your body's going to be called on to save your life, and you never know when you're going to have to dig into that well. So I've always been a big throw your hat over the fence and then go get your hat. And you can find out, do you ever put yourself in uncomfortable, scary positions? If you are a person that does that, then you would probably fare well with this type of obstacle. But if you are not a person that does that, I hope that this would cause you to task, but I pray you never have to find out for yourself.
That's fair. That's fair. While you're here, that other topic, I'm just going to jump to it since Billy's here. We had talked about the idea of children. First, I just wanted to ask you, originally my question was just, did life just kind of get in the way of having kids and you just ended up where you are and no kids? Or was it a plan?
It was like I said before, it was more so life just kept going, and I do believe that Billy's accident slowed down a lot of things. My biggest thing was people would say, when are you guys getting married, or when are you having kids? And in my head, I was like, can we just get him better first?
Yeah.
Because even though on the outside, everyone saw Superman, I saw Superman, and sometimes Superman does not have a good day,
Right.
So I was able to see the real, every year since this. One of the things when we ended 2019 that I was so excited about, it was the first year since Billy's accident that Billy didn't have an infection. Every year Billy had an infection, and we finally found out why the infection was happening. Every year he had an infection, some type of infection. And in 2000 and was in 18,
I spent 3 months in the hospital.
It was like the worst thing that happened since his accident.
Yeah, they couldn't figure out what was
going on with him, and they were talking about they might have to amputate the rest of his leg, and or he would die, and like all this stuff. And it was crazy. So it's like every year there was something. So my mindset would just be like, well, let's just let him get better. And I and like we talked about earlier when I did that Wonder Woman Needs Love Too thing, even though I'm very blessed that I have this great guy, I'm not saying anything that he doesn't know. I had to make sure he was okay, and I would make sure Billy was okay, and I would make sure Billy was okay. Not that Billy was asking me to do that. That's who we are as women. Yeah. And I would put a lot of things on hold, and I would sometimes feel like this must be how moms feel. And even from the standpoint that a couple of years ago, Billy finally got to the point, until he ended up getting in the end of 2018, that he was good. Not that he didn't need me, but it was finally all these years couldn't wait for him to get to a point where I felt like I could be like, okay, the little birdie can go out by himself.
Right.
And he was strong enough to do so. And I'm sitting here like, what's my favorite color again? And what do I like to do? And not that he asked me to do that, but I end up turning around, making sure that he was okay. And then you look up and you're 43 years old and you like, I'm not married and I don't have a baby. What the fuck? Excuse me. Oops, that was a bad one. I was just like, but in the midst of that too, I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm on Broadway. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. But I looked up, I was speaking at a conference and someone had said, well, Nikki, what is it that you want? And all of a sudden, I remember telling Billy, I was like, and all of a sudden I busted out crying in front of all these women. And I said, I want a baby. I'm 43 years old. And all of them surrounded me and prayed for me. And it was the first time. Yeah, they did. It was like the first time I like looked up and was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? So.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, these things don't really, no natural disaster is going to wait for you to have a good day to throw itself on you. So, whatever stress you're having already, Nikki and I were still figuring, I think we were barely 2.5 years in.
We were 2.5 years
when it happened.
Our relationship.
Our relationship was pretty new, all things considered. And it's not like we were you know, we were fine. We were boyfriend and girlfriend. I loved her very much. She loved me. We were good. But I mean, we were still 2.5 years in. So to put this on anybody is a huge, huge thing. We're not talking, you know, a broken leg and a couple of weeks of rehab.
Right.
4.5 months in the hospital and power of attorneys and, you know,
Yeah, I'm
nurses.
I'm the power of attorney.
We're talking foundations. I mean, it's just a lot.
So if she had bailed, it would not have been a shock.
I wouldn't say if Nikki had bailed,
No,
it would have been a shock.
The average person.
But the thing is, it happens all the time.
Right.
I can name off countless examples of amputees I know. You know, there was a gentleman in the hospital around the same time I was, and he crashed 3 miles from my accident, 3 days after my accident. So we ended up in parallel rooms for most of our recovery because we were both amputees who were in ICU. Right. And I didn't beat him forever. And finally, when I did, you know, to learn this guy's story, he's 10 years older than me. He had a business that he was doing well with. He was kind of going, but in his personal life, he was dealing with some stuff between, you know, who he was going to be with. And this threw a monkey wrench in all of that. And, you know, and if you talk to him today, he's by himself, you know, and he's not, I mean, it's not everyone is equipped to handle this kind of obstacle. It takes a special person to get through it. And it takes a special type of person to stand next to somebody going through it, which is one of the reasons I really like, you know, the triathlon community, the challenged athletes community, the Wiggle Your Toes, all these places all these organizations I connect with that deal with disabled and challenged athletes. Even the partners of the athletes are special kinds of people. If you are married to a blind man who does marathons, you're a special kind of person.
True.
If you are married to a wheelchair-bound person that does triathlons, you are a special kind of person.
And he's right, because when Billy first became an amputee, we were in a support group. But the support group we were in was for people who had diabetes and lost their legs and all this stuff.
Few traumatic accidents, but mostly that.
Mostly. So when he started getting involved with Wiggle Your Toes and prosthetics in motion, you know,
CAF, Achilles,
that's when you really started to meet people. And then for me, it was great to meet other partners whose partners
able-bodied who were dealing with
that, and through trauma, became amputees through trauma. And then we met a man, because it was mostly women. You met a man who's white. And so it was good to be able to be like, finally have someone like, he getting on my nerves today. He didn't wash the dishes. He didn't do this. Because when you talk to your friends, they're like, oh, Nikki. I'm like, no. He gonna jump in the Hudson. He gonna wash these dishes. You know, but that took a while. Me at first with Billy, the first couple of years, you know, I did everything for him. I was like, and then after a while, when he started really doing these triathlons, I was looking like, okay, oh no. It was fun though.
Yeah, I mean, there's a give and take in the whole thing, but you know, it's definitely about surrounding yourself with a powerful community and realizing that you don't have to do it alone. And so if I can, you know, when I meet amputees or any person with a challenge, you know, my first thing is, what are you doing? What do you need? Is there anybody you need to meet? Is there any equipment that you don't have that you need to? And I do my best to make the connection, because that's a lot of what this is about. You know, I've been very blessed to meet now Paralympic swimmers and triathletes and cyclists, and there's a common theme that runs in there. You know, when we're on when I travel to my triathlons, I almost always travel with a team of challenged athletes. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting thing because they put us all in kind of one area so that we kind of have our stuff together. But when you're out on the course, besides maybe starting before everybody, once you're out on the course, we're all just trying to get through the course, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you're just trying to get out of the water, get through transition. You're trying to get from transition to the bike. You're trying to have the bike go smooth with no crash and no flats. You're trying to get back to transition, get your shoes on and get a run in. And it's great to be out there with people that just, you know, that maybe they're inspired, but in that moment, you're just all athletes. And that's really all most challenged athletes want, is to just be Like the nicest thing some people can say to me on a lot of days is, I didn't even notice that you didn't have a leg. Like, that's really what you want to hear, you know? And then if you do need some help, you know, it's nice to have somebody offer you a seat on a bus.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to know that sometimes you don't need the seat because I work out and I didn't gain 45 pounds and, you know, can't walk. So if I have to stand,
that's that normalcy. So knowing that I'm still me, regardless of situation at the time.
Yeah.
Respect. I definitely appreciate you joining us. I know that hate to just bring you in and be like, hey, tell the story, you know.
Okay, it's okay.
It's a long story.
I wish it was a little simpler so I could tell it in 30 seconds.
It took all 20 minutes.
I thought you were already doing it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take it.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, baby.
Look, the time is for the guests, not for me. I can do this all night.
Director's cut.
Thank you, Billy. I appreciate it.
He's pretty fabulous. He is.
I'll do my best.
He's all right.
All right, are you going back?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back.
Okay.
Pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Know what you want?
You let me tell me.
Whatever.
Just text me.
I will let you go in just a couple moments.
I'm fine. We're fine. We're so fine.
I do want to talk about your kids. I want to talk about your kids, though.
Right there, the kids. Yeah.
Absolutely. But Harlem All-Star Theater Group.
Yes.
That's your nonprofit.
That is my nonprofit.
And tell me about it, and then how's it been in the COVID-19 space?
My Harlem All-Stars Theater Group kids was something that I accidentally fell into. What happened was Janice had closed, and the woman, it was called something else. It was called the Harlem Prep after school program. And they were looking for a Broadway performer to come on and assist. Why have I just gone a blank? Mr. Harney. Mr. Harney was the original Curtis Taylor Jr. in the original Dreamgirls with Jennifer Holliday, and Tony Award winning Ben Harney, and his daughter Jenny Harney, who is in Hamilton, she just had a baby, actually had just gotten the Motown tour, and my show had just closed, and they were looking for an assistant. So Miss Linda, who was the founder of the after school program, recommended me to come, and I went and worked with these I was like, to much is given, much is required. So I worked with these little cute little kids, and they connected with me and I connected with them. So the following year, Mr. Harney ended up not being the director, and IK, Mr. Henry, and Miss Linda reached out to me and said, you had such a great connection with the kids, they liked you, would you come on and direct the show? So I came on, I directed the show, and then after the show was done, I was like, what are y'all doing here? And they were like, nothing. They were like, oh. And I was like, would y'all mind if I just kind of, they were like, do what you need to do, Nikki. And, you know, and Linda's in her 70s. IK is an entrepreneur doing a lot of things. So that summer, I turned this into a nonprofit. You know, I got us an EIN number. We're in a position right now that we are 501c3 pending. And I turned us into this nonprofit. We create extraordinary theater experiences for our underserved youth. A majority of my kids are Black and brown kids. A lot of them have never performed before in their life before they came to us. You know, they're underserved youth. A lot of my kids live in the projects. A lot of my kids' parents were definitely affected by COVID-19. Some of my kids' parents are essential workers. So on top of the fact they still have to go to work and they've been turned into teachers and this and that. The resources are limited. And I can honestly, and then I changed the name to the Harlem All-Stars Theater Group. We started off with just one division, the kids between the ages of 7 and 12. Then my preteens are now, 15, 16, 17, a couple of them have graduated. So I developed the seniors division. When I tell you, Smitty, I didn't realize, again, speaking at a conference one time, I didn't realize how much this program meant to me. And I started talking about it, and I started crying. And I remember being their age, and I had a Miss Nikki. His name was Gary Yarbrough. And he was the one that told my mom, this at 5, 6 years old, this little girl has talent. He was the one that told my mom, because I was the one that found out about the Annie audition. I used to read the entertainment section on Sunday of the paper, and I was eating cereal one morning, and he told my mom, let her go, give her an opportunity. He died in the 80s during the whole AIDS epidemic. And at the time, I just knew he died. I didn't know until later on in life what it was from. But he was my Miss Nikki, and he changed I'm about to get emotional. He changed. I wish he was still alive today. He was one of the people that began to change my life. As I went on to school and middle school, and the Miss Nuns and Wanda Kinsingers, and of course, Miss Moore and Susan Wood, now who's Susan Kish. Of course, they developed me, and then Mr. Rowland. Later on, when I went to Syracuse, they are part of the people that got me to where I am now. But he was the first person that noticed this little girl with a big voice. And so I felt like I wanted to do that for these kids. So I started the program. I took over. I was the owner. I got my Broadway friends to come in. One of my best friends is the resident choreographer, to come in. And we have been doing this now. And then I partnered with Mr. Henry, I.K. Henry. He's like my business partner for it. And we've been doing this now for we're going into our 6th, 7th season. And I was excited this year because we had gotten an influx of different kids last year. We have partnered with the Beacon program here in New York City, and it provided us a free venue, and we got new kids. And, the boys club here at New York, they've been great. And let me tell you how this happened, how we ended up getting this space. When I was in graduate school, I was also assistant manager at Guess, the retail store. And one of my employees, Carlos Velasquez, who I adore, he was one of our stock guys and sales associates. Carlos ends up being the head director of the boys club that runs the Beacon program. And he had heard that I was looking for a space, and he reached out to me. See how alumni work, TLA work. So I am very indebted to him, because these new set of kids that I've gotten over the last couple of years, especially my juniors division, no disrespect to my seniors, I love y'all, y'all know I love y'all, but these kids are super talented, and I feel like eventually they probably would have been offered an opportunity. But Smitty, I think some of them may not have known. I have one little girl, she can sing. Her mom was like, who knew? We were like, who knew? And I encourage them. We have fun, but there's discipline. Some of my kids started off with me from like 7 all the way up. And then when they get to like 12, some of them grow to be 5, 8, 6 feet tall. I'm talking about girls. They end up discovering a basketball. And it's funny how you put so much into them, and they're like coming to me like crying, like, Miss Nikki, I made the basketball team. I'm like, that's amazing. I'm not gonna be able to do Harlem All-Stars. This is what Harlem All-Stars was for. Harlem All-Stars helped you with the confidence and the discipline. You go out there. Miss Nikki will always be there. I'll go support and go to the volleyball games and the basketball games. And one of my main girls ended up becoming the captain of the step team. And she was very conflicted. And I was like, you better go step. I was like, you better go step. And so, you have some of them. There are a few of them that I do. I'm like, he might be the next Denzel, one particular. And then this new little junior group I have between ages 7 and 11, they're special. And so when COVID happened, I was disappointed because this was going to be our first year to have our Harlem All-Stars Theater Group Gala. And what I love about it is every time we have we've done The Lion King, we've done The Wiz, we've done, last year we did excerpts from Hamilton. So Jenny Harney and my Broadway friends from The Lion King and Hamilton and Ain't Too Proud to Beg, they come to see the kids. And I really was so happy, you know, and a lot of my friends who are on Broadway, they came are African-American and Latin performers. And I wanted my kids to see what is possible, you know, and it meant a lot to me that Jenny would come and Chandra and all of them, you know, they were busy, and I would have the show on a Monday, one of the shows would be on a Monday so my Broadway family could come. So I was really excited this year. We had this big event planned. It was our first annual gala. I was my UVA alum. Like, I was like, these people got to come see my kids. And, you know, and I'm in a space now that it's time for us to grow, and we need to find a new space. We need to find a new home. And I also was sad when COVID happened, because I was like, what about my kids? What are we going to do? So I had to take a beat at first. The first 3 weeks, I was like, okay, me and Billy need to figure out what's going on with us. And then I reached out to the parents, and not everybody came, right, but majority of them did. And I would see them twice a week for an hour. At first it was going to be an hour and a half, but kids, their attention span, and for an hour. And we would do something for an hour every week. And then I said, okay, what are we getting out of this? My kids had gotten to a point they were doing Hamilton. So they thought that musical theater was just Hamilton. And I love Hamilton. But I wanted them to know that musical theater is so much. And they're going to always expect us as Black people to always do the Black musicals. I wanted them to not only know the Black musicals, of course, but let y'all know who, Don't Rain on My Parade. Let's introduce you to Chicago, Oklahoma. Let's introduce you to these musicals. Let me know who Barbara Streisand is, know who these people are. Of course, we're going to know who the Stephanie Mills are and all of that, of course. And so I gave each of them an assignment. They had to choose a musical theater song and or a monologue. And so I worked with them, each kid, for 2 weeks. We worked in groups, and then I split them up and I gave them, for 2 weeks, they met with me 2 to 3 times a week by themselves. I was with kids from 1 to 7 and helping them get their product together. And now I have my last one kid today by herself, and now we're in a group. And this Thursday, they are presenting on Harlem All-Stars Theater Group. They're doing their presentation and sending out little invites tomorrow. And it's going to be an hour and a half. It's my junior kids and my senior kids. And they're going to present what they've been working on. Some of them are singing a whole song. Some are singing 1632 bars. And some are doing full-fledged monologues, and some are doing 3 lines. But it's just to show them. My goal was, if someone says, do you know a musical theater song? You know something besides I'm not throwing away my shot. That was my goal. Right. Let show them that you can hang. Show them that I can sing Don't Rain on My Parade, and I can sing Mon Hair, stuff that people will be surprised that these kids know, especially these brown and Black kids know. So that's very important to me. And the goal is to eventually have our own space. I have this building that I have my eye on 125th Street that I want to make the NKI headquarters, Nikki Kimbrough Incorporated headquarters. Okay. And it has the Harlem All-Stars Theater Group. It has Kimbrough and Company, and it has Gifted with Nick. I have my eye on it, and it's open. The bottom floor isn't open, but it's open. And Billy is a real estate agent, so I got a chance to go into it and look into it. And I think what I was upset about the gala was my first time that I really was going to share what our vision is. Our vision is to be a fully funded program so I can pay my instructors. Right. The only way we're going to end up being like a Rosie's Theater Kids, who I also do work with, and these big theater companies, they have big backers, they have board members with money, they have huge fundraisers, they have I think what makes me feel good, some of my kids had done some other programs and the parents were like, we pay tons of money and my program is free. My program is free. And my child comes home and says, I learned more from Miss Nikki and Miss Brittany than I've learned from there, and my instructors are Broadway performers or people that have been on television and film that know the business. We know what it takes. So
what's stopping you?
Right now, I just honestly, Smitty, COVID-19. I don't know, in a good way. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to say it's been a blessing. I don't want to say that because we have lost a lot of people, but it has forced me to sit down. And I have a tendency sometimes I start in the middle, and it all happened as a kid. In high school, things kind of came naturally for me, and things and as you get older, everybody's good, everybody's great, and you got to really put that work in. And as an entrepreneur, that foundation has to be strong. So when something like COVID-19 comes, you're not knocked out of your misery. Now, I'm blessed that I wasn't knocked out of my misery, but it did show me the holes that are in my businesses. But it showed me holes that I can fix and I can fill. And so this COVID-19 space has helped me to say, okay, we got to get a real board together. We have a board, but we got to get a good board together. I'm a publicist by trade. I can't do everything. So I need to sit down and figure out, I definitely really have someone in mind that I want to hire to help us, support us to develop from a fundraising standpoint, because this is a program and there's no reason why we should not be fully funded with the people that I know and the people that I can know. So the COVID space has helped us to slow down and to really see what's going on. So,
well, that I do expect to happen. So I don't know what your time frame is, but I'll be looking forward to it.
And you have to come see my kids. They're great, and I love it. Like Billy would take a picture of me and say, "Oh, it's Harlem All-Stars Theater Group time," and there's something about it that really feeds my soul. Eventually, I do want to be like, I'm the owner and the executive director. But eventually I really do want to be the executive director and like the head of the board. And I have people directing the show. Now I do everything. And I'm learning that, what does Billy always say, that African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, a team is important. A team is important.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's my
beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Well, I have held you way longer. This is going to be a part.
I'm so sorry that I talked so much.
I love it.
When you said, I ain't gonna front, when you said you want me to tell a story of Billy, I was going like, Billy gonna be here for a minute. But it's very authentic when it comes from Billy. When it comes from me, you hear more of my side of the story. Whereas for him, you hear his side of the story. For me, I do talk about, I was there when you get the call that your man is being airlifted and he's flatlined twice and you get to the hospital and he's not going to make it. I was there when I realized I'm stronger than an ox. Everybody else is falling apart. And I'm like, we ain't got time to cry. I got to call my mother. I have to call his mother. I have to do this. I have to do that. I was there when that accident also showed me that I can handle anything. You know what I'm saying? I can handle anything. And the only thing I think I didn't do, I didn't process Billy's accident till a couple years later. Whereas I was talking about him, not going through it, I didn't process it till a couple years later, like right when I turned 40. And that's when I was like, oh, you almost died. It's like years later, he's looking at me like, babe, I'm here. But hold the fork down and make sure everything was straight and make sure he was good and make sure he was able to move forward. And I know he feels really great now. And he's amazing and making sure that I'm okay. He really wants to make sure that I am doing what it is I need to do for me. He's very grateful for that. He was like, I'm good. I'm okay. But so now I got this whole new putting me first and making sure I want to do what I want to do. I have some big time goals. One is I want to have a child. I want to marry my partner. And the other is, I don't know if I should put it out there yet.
Mhm.
I have a big goal that I want. I want to be the Emmy Award winning host of the Emmy Award winning Get Fit with Nick show. So we'll see what happens,
Put it in the air. That's what you got to do. Put it in the air.
Out in the universe and let her come. But Smitty, I'm very honored that we connected, and I want us to stay connected. And thank you very much.
Oh, no.
Maybe feel special and important.
You were already that. And I definitely appreciate you taking the time, for real. And, being open. I definitely appreciate that. Please, one more time, drop your social media.
You guys can find me, I'm Nikki Kimbrough. You can find me at Get Fit with Nick, GetFitWithNik. And from there, you'll find more about my production company that I'm putting together called Kimbrough and Company. And in the Harlem All-Stars Theater Group. They have their own handles, but just go to Get Fit with Nick and you'll find out everything. And you'll also find out about my Wonder Woman Need Love Too. Putting ourselves first in the midst of it all. And on Saturdays, the Wonder Woman Needs Love Too presents the Ladies First Chit Chat crew, where we honor the voice of the everyday woman. So, yeah, that is me. Nikki
Awesome.
from Richmond, Virginia.
All the way from the 804.
All the way from the 804. Manchester High School, right?
That's right. L4L one more time.
Yes.
Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate you.
Thank you, baby.
Sauce out.